Hello out there and welcome to Public Conscience. You are on to the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society organization working to promote good governance, participation and accountability in Nigeria. I am Adaobi Obiabumo with my colleague Esther Bassi.
A warm welcome to the program wherever you're listening to us.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of investigative corruption stories by our partner media organizations and alerting citizens and the government to their democratic actions against it. We equally promote integrity by amplifying the rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals in the course of their normal activities. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
Recall that in our previous episode on entrenching integrity in the public service, we had an integrity icon, the head of the sociology department at the University of Abuja, Dr. Magdalene Igbolo, who joined us to talk about challenges of public servants in displaying integrity on the job. We learned a lot from her good deeds.
Today's program is going to be equally revealing and quite expository. So we have to celebrate Integrity Icons and Accountability Lab Nigeria, a civil society organization that has been using the Integrity Icon Nigeria project to identify honest public servants in their numbers for over 5 years. Together, we will expand the conversation on public sector integrity. We will also x-ray the hindrances of Nigerians to display integrity and why getting public sector accountability right continue to be a challenge.
At PRIMOG, we are anxious to see Nigerians adopt integrity and accountability as a culture, whether you are working for the government, a private company, or working for yourself, as it is the only way for us to have the Nigeria of our dreams.
Our happiness today is that despite the stories of corruption in the public domain, there are some individuals in the public service flying high the flag of integrity. They are few, but they are making a difference. For you out there, do you know that no society progresses as it should without the people being accountable and upright to a large extent? Are you aware that the lack of accountability and transparency in the public sector has massively affected our development as a nation? And what must we do as citizens to encourage an integrity lifestyle in our little corners and in the public sector?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902-265-6167, and that is 0902-265-6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only. If you have just joined us, we are discussing how to entrench the culture of integrity in the Nigerian public sector and beyond.
According to American actress and philanthropist Oprah Winfrey, she said, "Real integrity is doing the right thing, knowing that nobody's going to know whether you did it or not." Sadly, stories of a lack of integrity by Nigerians who are saddled with one form of responsibility or the other in the public sector and the private sector continues to be heard every now and then.
Accountability Lab Nigeria has been using Integrity Icon Nigeria project to build a new generation of upright people in the public service. As we talk, the stage is almost set for the Accountability Lab Nigeria to unveil its top 5 integrity icons of 2022.
Our guests today are celebrated integrity icons who have made a difference in the Nigeria public service by displaying uncommon integrity in the public service. We are pleased to have joining us Nwalim Naomi Abdul, who is a 2022 Integrity Icon Nigeria Award recipient. Nwalim Naomi Abdul is an Assistant Chief State Counsel of the Ministry of Justice in Gombe State. In her quest for justice, she has remained steadfast and uncompromising. We also have Mukhtar Suleiman, who is a representative of the Accountability Lab Nigeria, who is also in the studio with us. You're welcome to today's episode of the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
We would start this conversation with Nwalim Naomi Abdul. You're welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
I must say congratulations to you on your nomination as one of the 2022 Integrity Icon recipients.
Thank you.
Okay, as a legal practitioner and an assistant chief state counsel of the Ministry of Justice in Gombe State, you are renowned for ensuring clinical dispensation of justice to perpetrators of sexual and gender-based violence crime. Could you tell us how you feel about being recognized as a person of integrity?
Well, anyway, thank you so much for this opportunity. Honestly, I would say I was surprised, elated, and then it was humbling for me. Surprised because before the nomination, I've not heard about Accountability Lab, and then it was elating to see that what you're doing, people are also watching, and then it's also making an impact. And then humbling because immediately it came up, the nominations came up, and it was being shared. You know, a lot of comments like, "Oh, she deserves it. We believe." You know, so it was so humbling, and it was elating and humbling, honestly.
That means you did not know the person that nominated you. It came as a surprise.
Later on, it wasn't someone I knew closely, but I think that once or twice, but I was not aware that something like that was going on, actually.
We know that in Nigeria, so many people pay for awards, but it's good to know that you did not pay for this award and you were not aware, like I said earlier on. Okay, what has been your motivation in choosing to be a person of integrity despite the temptations to compromise standards that abounds out there?
Oh, okay. First, I would say it's God because of my belief. Secondly, I would say that because of the nature of what I do, I believe that possibly it's a divine arrangement for me to be able to be of assistance to the next person. And most times when I don't assist, I find it very, very difficult to sleep. And then I think the third thing is my late dad. He has been one person that has always, wanted me to be able to stand out, not to compromise standards in whatever I do.
So it's basically family and upbringing, the family value for you, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we'll move forward from here. How impactful has your lifestyle been to people around you, and what more are you going to do following your recognition?
Sure, I think for me, it has become part of my life. It's something I do daily. Even when I was recognized, I had this mixed feeling of, no, it is me. That is what I do. I shouldn't be, but at initial when I realized that, okay, people see what you do, and then they feel encouraged. And I think because of that, a lot of younger ones are coming up to say, okay, we also want to be part of what you're doing. So I think it's actually making impact directly on my younger colleagues. And then also the community itself, because it has become a norm that when there are such cases, they'll say, okay, let's get to so person, and the person will be so helpful, and then we'll get justice at the end of the day.
Okay, so what's your sustainability plan? You said young people are looking up to you, and then they've come up to you to say, oh, we like what you're doing and want to be part of it.
Yes, I think I am compelled to go into mentoring now. It's part of the sustainability to continue to be what you are, and then to encourage and also support the younger ones to continue in line.
Okay, it's good that you have this zeal to mentor the younger generation, but let's look at the other side of the divide. It is said that good things do not come easily. What are some of the prices that you had to pay for insisting the right thing has to be done?
Wow, it has not actually been easy, because most times you will see that there are some things that are due or you're supposed to get, and because of your stand for possibly be having to do the right thing, not necessarily what people feel you should do. You know, you people like tend to, you know, avoid you on that, and which I'm fine with it. I'm used to it. And then secondly, you know, and personally, you have to use your own resources, since you're not expecting anybody, you know, to support what you do. So majorly, you know, they are the two issues that face one in the field.
Okay, were there instances where you were giving bribe to subvert justice at any point? Is there a particular experience that you would want to share?
A lot of times, so many times. In fact, just yesterday, I was following up a case, and then they were like, you know, we need to sort this thing out. And fortunately, the other agents I have worked with in the past, and he's like, no, you can't penetrate this one. Let's just forget about the issue. You know, one of them came around and was telling me, you know, so it's something that occurs daily. And then being on the field, and specifically on issues of gender-based violence, there are things that keeps on, you know, coming up every day. And so you are faced with such issues.
Okay, it's good to know that you've been able to resist all the bribes that came your way all this while. But for that person listening to you at the moment, I would like you to give I said for the person listening to you at the moment, what would be to your advice for the person of integrity who is demoralized and would want to shift ground? What can you say to that person at the moment?
Honestly, I know it's not easy, but I know it pays out at the end of the day. And what my dad usually tells me is a good name is better than whatever you think you will have aside that. For me, like I told you, I was just living my life, doing my thing. I didn't know that people were watching, and then I was nominated for this award. So whatever it is you're doing, don't feel discouraged about it. But even though it's not encouraging, but just be rest assured that there are good people out there who are watching, and it will play out well for you at the end of the day.
Thank you so much for that word of advice to that person listening to you and your contribution on the program today. Walim Naomi Abdu. Thank you for being a part of today's program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, for you out there listening to us, you're still on to Public Conscience, a production of Primal, the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development. And we're discussing integrity. On this program, we've talked about corruption for a while. So today we decided to get to the flip side of corruption, which is integrity. And you've heard the story of one of the 2022 Integrity Icon recipients, Walim Naomi Abdu. In the studio, I still have my guest, Suleiman Mukhtar, who is the Communications Officer at Accountability Lab Nigeria. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
You were just smiling while Naomi narrated shared her experience and how she became one of the recipients of the icon. For the benefit of Nigerians who are not very conversant with the Integrity Icon project, could you tell us what it is all about?
Just to put it very plainly, what we're trying to do is to see how we can name and fame integrity in the public service sector. We know Nigerians' public service sector is one of the is tagged as one of the most corrupt in the world currently, and even within our own space. But we're trying to make people understand that there are good people who are doing their job, and they're also doing well. They don't have to steal, they don't have to cut corners or anything. So we believe that leveraging on the social learning theory of the behavioral change communication, we can actually personify that concept, so it doesn't sound abstract anymore. So when somebody says integrity, it is not a word you need to look at a dictionary for. It can be a face you can see in your head. It can be an action you can actually make reference to. So beyond looking at it from abstraction, we can actually personify it actually, and basically that's what we've been doing for the past 5 years plus of the existence of Accountability Lab in Nigeria, and just even across the globe. Our offices across the 9 countries are also doing the same thing with public service holders.
It's good to know that there are persons of integrity, because you've heard people say we are all corrupt.
Yes.
This is just to counter that norm out there that we are not actually corrupt. There are people who are standing on integrity on a daily basis. Could you give us a sense of what to look out for in the 2022 Integrity Icon celebration? How many entries did you get this year?
We got about 1,700, which is like a 53% increase from what we got last year. Last year we got a little bit above 1,000. I don't have the precise numbers with me now, but we got about 1,700 this year entry, and then that
1,700.
Yes. Let me get a precise number for what we got for this year. We got precisely 1,749 nominations.
1,749.
Yes, and last year we got 1,139.
1,139. That's a sharp, very, very increase.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is, like you've rightly mentioned during the course of your call with Miss Abdul, we try as much as possible to make sure that we don't influence the process. So we even get independent judges. I've never met Miss Abdul. I don't think we've ever spoken. And I'm the head of comms. We've not spoken. I don't even know her. I don't think she knows me in any way. Neither does she know the country director. She just knows the film fellows who went to shoot the story by the time she was part of the top 5 for us to publicize. Like she rightly stated, she doesn't know Accountability Lab. We didn't know the work she was doing until somebody else nominated, and then we did our own background. Our independent judges did their background check on each of the candidates who met the criteria after the nominations were sent in. So it's sort of more or less like a transparent process, that way we can say that we got people who were sure that these people are uncompromising.
The way you sounded, you made it look all so easy, as if it was easy breezy. How rigorous was the process of selecting this?
Honestly, very. Like you going through 1,739 nominations, because we had to come through. When I say come through, you know how a comb works. We had to come through that application very carefully and meticulously to ensure that we did not miss out on anything. It was quite difficult, because it's so funny how people think, and the irony of it is that we got calls from people who were saying they wanted to buy the award. We got calls from public service holders, from people within the same public service space who wanted to buy the award as well. But like we've always said, no matter how much you want to pay, we are not selling it. What we are looking out for is people who are actually doing it, and people who can actually serve, and people who tomorrow nobody will come and say, we just cut corners here. Not even saying we paid for it. Like other people will claim that we cut corners to give them the award that they actually got. So we are being firm and straight with everything that we're doing.
It's good that you have accountability and transparent templates.
It's in the name. It's in the name.
Okay, but how did Nigerians out there react? For instance, you go to a particular office. Were they shocked that you were looking out for persons of integrity, or were they excited to say, oh, we have so many of them in our office? Well,
we won't say, not really the whole so many of them in our office, but the thing with how our process of selection goes was when we eventually got to the office and said, this is who we are nominating, because we have to write to the head of the, if it's whatever MDA it is, we have to write to the head of the MDA. So there's no second thought about it. Oh, if it's this person, we're very sure that no wahala. And even in our story telling process for the shooting, it's online, it's on our YouTube page and also on our social media handles. You could hear their colleagues actually go, and some of the colleagues that we don't plan for the colleagues we go there to shoot. So when we get there, we just pick at random, just to make sure that we can get honest responses, so it doesn't look too scripted. So we want to hear honest responses, and if at any point during the entire process we get to find out that there's a questionable character that comes to the integrity of the person, and not as a matter of personal vendetta or anything else, we pull the plug from that particular candidate.
Okay, thank you for that. It's time for us to get the person listening at the other end of the dial to join the conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message to is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265-6167. This number is for messages only, and we would like you to call in and contribute to the conversation. Do you think that the lack of integrity by people in leadership positions is the reason why corruption is on the rise in Nigeria? Do you think more Nigerians become persons of integrity if leaders display integrity in their offices? And do you know that some Nigerians are still displaying integrity in the public and private sector? Perhaps you know one or two persons who are persons of integrity. Would also like you to call in and share their stories with us.
Moving forward, you mentioned that is it the event now?
Yes.
Is upcoming. Can you give us a little bit detail of the forthcoming events?
Oh yeah, the Integrity Icon Award is an annual event where that's the event itself, the summit itself, where we bring people together and publicly, of course, give the awards to the icons that the top 5 icons were actually nominated for the year. So we're hoping to host it this year by December 1st. It's open to the public, of course. We're not hiding anything, and it's going to hold at ICC, International Conference Center in Abuja, and we're hoping that we can get people to come around so that they can actually see who these people are, hear firsthand from them what they're doing, and also understand the rationale behind why we're doing what we're doing as well, in a more elaborate and more grand scheme.
Okay, so usually because of this program, we've actually talked about public sector, and most of your icons are gotten from the public sector. I'd like to know, is it just, why don't you dive into the private sector or even sole proprietors, even in the course of...
We would prefer to stay in the public sector space because that part of our work is to ensure that good governance works for everybody. We're ensuring that the dividends of democracy trickle down to the common citizens in the country. And each time that we say the system is bad in Nigeria, the system does not exist in abstraction. There are names and faces that ensure that the system is operational. And as far as governance is concerned, the civil service is the system of governance in the country. The public service holders come and they go. The political appointees come and they go. The president will come and go, but the civil service will remain. So when we say the system is having an issue, we know that the system is built with those civil service officers. So we want to stick there. We want to see how we can clean up and brush up that system just to ensure that good governance can be operational. Because if the civil servants do not create the leeway, the public service holders will not have a way to actually get away with anything. They are the system. So we are trying to focus on them for this. So we're hoping that maybe another organization might want to pick up private sector. But as far as governance is concerned, that's what our key focus is. We just want to ensure that we can brush up that system.
I asked that because sometimes, private sector and the public sector, they sort of partner to carry out one or two tasks.
There's always a PPP process, but for every time you partner with let's say for instance you partner with the public sector for anything, most of the approval monies and everything comes through that platform. So if there's grounds for corruption, you most likely have an issue. You most likely have an out when it comes from the government, as opposed to when the private sector is more tight and more strict because of certain policies that are in place and all of that. But if the government sector can be better, because they create regulations for the private sectors in the country. So if we can improve the government sector, we hope that it drops off on the private sector as well.
Would like you to call and share your experience. Do you know any person of integrity? Perhaps your neighbor, perhaps your teacher, or your colleague at the office. Would like to hear their stories.
We have a message on Facebook from Yangbe Thank God, and she said, for real, I want to specially thank you for this topic. Also, special regards to your guest. This is what we lack. This is what we lack in our society today. Where integrity is gone. I hope the parents do more, including our spiritual leaders, churches, mosques, and other micro groups. What we need today are the leaders to set the record straight. Our fathers never teach us this life at all. Yahoo generation. My name is Yangwe Thank God from Lagos. Thank you very much for your message on Facebook. Keep it coming, and we'll definitely take it that way.
Thank God mentioned family, and our guests, Naomi Abdul, mentioned the value that she inherited from, or the parents bequeathed to her.
Father.
What exactly, or what more do you think the family should do?
I think we need to model who the earliest form of a child is when they pick up habits, characters, and the rest of it, and whatever it is that we build at the core of them at that point becomes something that people carry along with them everywhere they go, and that is what we call conscience most of the time. So does that change eventually with time? Perhaps it does, but it's quite difficult to actually kill it. So if we can, from the home, if we can create a check and balance system that ensures that accountability stays within the core of every child as they grow up, it becomes very difficult for them to become deviant in the society, or for them to constitute a nuisance, or for them to be corrupt as well. So, but I'm always an advocate for we are all personally responsible for our actions and inactions most of the time. So even at that, when the parents, I know parents who tried very hard for their children, but the children decide to.
Maybe that the society influenced the children.
I think we can only get as much influence as we allow in our work. We can get as much influence as we allow in our schools. We can get as much influence as we allow in our peer groups. I remember that speaking personally, growing up in my secondary school, I did a boarding school. Most of my friends were drug addicts. They did drugs. They drank alcohol. But till this day, I've never. I don't know what. I've never even. I don't even know what. And I'm not saying this just to sound self-righteous, but I don't know what alcohol tastes like.
So that means the family has a very big and important
they do,
role to play.
They do, but I also believe that you as a person, you have an individual. In fact, your role is more important, because it's you're personally responsible. There's only how long you can blame your family or award your family for how you turn out. It's good to recognize that, I came from a good background, but again, like I said, I know people who the parents tried their very best to ensure that they come up well, but still made decisions along the line that derailed. So I really go the extra way to acknowledge that you did your best as a person for how you turned out, or how you didn't turn out.
Family and individual responsibility play the big role in ensuring integrity. Thank you for that. Since you started this project, it's more than 4 years. You have harvested lots of persons of integrity. What are you currently doing with the past integrity icons? Is there a platform for them to continue showcasing their good deeds?
We currently are trying to create like a community for them, which they are leading on their own. We're just supporting anyway, where they can also, would I call it a mentorship sort of platform for officers within their ranks and also below, or even above, even if it comes to that, where they are going to see how they can tell them how they navigate difficult situations, like how Miss Naomi was able to turn down bribe and still do the job without having to be victimized herself. So all of that are things that we are playing out to do going forward as well. Currently the former fellows are actually working on that, and so they set some kind of advisory group for within their own space, since they are all in the public sector. So it's easier to have that inter-agency work relationship that they can also share. For example, CSP Francis is a police officer. Currently we have a police officer as well. One of the icons are receiving the award. Miss Abdu she's a lawyer. She's in the justice system. Same with the lady from Gombe. Like I said, I don't really know most of them. She's also a lawyer. So there's always that. Okay, whatever crime comes up, and how they can ensure that they support one another to keep up the good work and without actually losing. Because people like this, whenever it is that they feel like they are alone.
True.
Most of the time, especially when there is a polarization of corruption across the space. So in order for them not to feel that way, they need support systems that have shared experiences that they can use from across the country. So, and that's what we're trying to do with the icons currently.
Now that you mentioned support system, is there a platform for a person of integrity who is going through one form of victimization or the other and is demoralized? Is there a platform for the person to communicate with you, perhaps to get motivated?
Now that you've mentioned it, I actually think it's an angle we need to explore as well. Yeah, because that's actually a very good angle. I don't think I have not thought of it from that angle before, but I think we'll add that to what the icons are already building and see how we can open the network in such a way that if they're having issues, because some of these people are DPOs of police stations, area commanders, justices in different courts, and the rest of it. So that means they are in positions of influence where they can actually help and assist and all of that. So I think we might want to open it up so that other people who might be having issues of victimization and everything else, I think I will definitely take that down and take it back to the team.
Okay, thank you for that.
Let's look at around now. The youth we have, very soon they would become these public sector workers. They would definitely get into the public sector. Do you have any plans, for this youth, instilling integrity in them, so at the long run you have lesser corrupt officials?
Most of our work are actually targeted beyond the integrity icon awards. Like most of the work that we are doing are targeted at young people. Ensure like our integrity lab is targeted at young people strictly, where we bring people who are working in whatever sector, and then we sort of like have like a mentorship section, not just even for talking, for also support in terms of networks and financial resource where necessary from one of the mentors as well. So we're ensuring that beyond the integrity icon, the other works that we are doing on the side are actually targeted at that demography, because we understand that the young people should be able to understand what is expected of them when they get to positions of power, as opposed to going there blindly. We don't want people to learn on the job anymore. We're hoping that they can get it before they get in.
It's good that, like we say, catch them young.
Yes, catch them.
You're targeting them because they're the future of tomorrow. Okay, now let's get to specifics, statistics. You talked about demography here. Is it possible for us to know the percentage of that's the 2022 icon? Do we have more women who are persons of integrity, the number that you harvested this year, or we have more men who are persons of integrity? In
terms of the nomination, we had a very little difference between the amount of women that were submitted and the amount of men. But after the independent judges went through the entire application and everything, we cut it down to top 10 and then to top 5. So the top 5, we have 2 women there and 3 men. This is a testament to most the top 10 that we eventually got after the entire screening process. There were more men on it, but it's not because we don't think women are not doing this thing, but there's, like I said, there's an independent measure that was used, and this was the result we arrived at. Okay,
independent measures, quite alright. What are the criteria? What did you look out for from 1,749 to 5? I mean, it's a whole lot of.
We did our research, but part of what we did, I don't have the criteria from here with me, but part of what we did was, after the call for nomination, we had volunteers who went to the MDAs to talk to people about these particular people. We did follow-up calls with the offices. Once there's a question of any kind, in terms of we pull off from that candidate, because then that's not what we want to do, because we don't want to have people coming back to question our process. So we did follow-up calls, I think up to 3 times. That's from the independent judges who went through the system, and then we nominated. That whole number was cut down into 10. This was month of work, because usually for the integrity icon, the award is in December. We start the process in January. Yeah, so it's not a 3-month thing, it's not a 2-month thing, it's actually for the whole year. So this whole process, as soon as we're done with the award this year, in January again, we'll put out a call for nomination again, and then the entire process continues again all the way down to December. So a lot of work was put into it, and we arrived at 2 women and 3 men.
Okay. Now I want to find out if you actually looked out for consistency, or is it just a one-off display of integrity? We've seen stories flying in the public space where it could be a police officer who returned money. It could be someone who just did something one-off. It's not like the person is consistent. Are such people, will they make it to the list of nominees?
No, we could give a honorary mention at the event. That this person did this, and which is a good thing. But that's not a target for the award itself. For the Integrity Icon Award, we always look out for consistency. In fact, we want to hear during the nomination process that in this year, in so year, the person did this. The year after, the person did this. The year after, the person did this. Like, we want to hear that. The person was always doing this. Is who the person is, and this is what I want to hear. Realistic stories. Sometimes we go as far as, like, I'll give you an example. One of the police DPOs, when we were done talking to the police officers that work under him, we went to the communities and spoke to people to hear what their own perspective is. And with that, this is without the policeman even knowing, usually. Because if you say you are well known in the community, then for one of the policemen, you get to hear, he always comes himself whenever there's an incident of such nature. He doesn't just send his boys, he will want to come himself to it, and he will not leave until the issue has been handled. So these are the kind of things we want to hear from members of the community. He's not aware of who we are talking to. We don't talk to him about it. But then we have to ensure that we go into those communities, because if they want to if you want to claim that you are well known about this, they want to actually hear it from the people that you're actually serving. Okay. So consistency is a very key part.
Consistency is key when it comes to integrity. Yeah. Now back to the issue of the youth. You talked about you have program to instill values in them all. But do we have youths that made it to your top, maybe 1,700 nominees, or the top 10 or top 5? Do we have youth?
Few from the general nomination, but how do I put this? Most of them are quite young. Barrister Abdul is not, I wouldn't say falls within the youth spectrum, but not very old either. But for you to show consistency of work, you need to have had years under your belt, especially in the public service. And for you to get to a position where your integrity becomes questioned, we know that does not happen at 25. On very rare cases, maybe at state level, on very rare cases, but at federal level, not always the situation. So the demographic of the youth demographic does not really play to us because of our own criteria of what we are watching out for. But we know that there are exemptions, often in some cases, and when we have them, of course, we'll be very glad to actually share them.
Okay, so the integrity icon, Naomi, she mentioned that she didn't get to know about, like, she did not hear about you people. It's as if accountability lab just work in some sort of hiding. Is it intentional? Do you put out just self out there enough for people to, want to be part of it, instead of coming to say they want to pay their way through?
Yeah, we do. We put our part. And I think I would take her not knowing about us as a compliment as opposed to a problem, because then it goes to show that she had no influence or whatsoever in the process in any way. She was doing her job, minding her business, and then we came in. We are not a federal government's MDA, so we might not be known everywhere, really, because she's in Taraba, I think. No, she's in Gombe. She's in Gombe State. We're present in every state, but not not strongly visible in every state, of course. So I think that's part of where that's why she might not have heard of the lab before now. But then again, like I said earlier, I would take that as a compliment rather than as really that part of a problem. But we are working as communications officer currently. We're actually working to ensure that there's more visibility of the work we do. Rarely would you go to an MDA currently that's especially in Abuja at federal level, that we are not known. Same thing with Lagos, but we're doing our best to ensure that we can actually get. But we don't care about our name being put out there if there are results coming out as a result of the work that we are doing at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you for that. But let's quickly delve into a different topic, slightly different but interrelated. We know what is happening currently when it comes to politics and election. Accountability lab, you've been dealing with integrity. Is there, or what would be your suggestion when it comes to integrity in the electoral process?
How do you mean? Let me understand your question.
How do we ensure integrity in the electoral process?
Okay, the election, people should go out and vote. One of the biggest lies that the election riggers have and how they've convinced us is that our votes do not count. But they do. For me to rig elections, I need votes. If people do not vote for you, or people do not come out to vote, then you cannot rig the election. You need people to actually come out and get you the votes for you. But now, I'm grateful for we're hoping that the Electoral Act would actually save us in more ways than we can count. And so far, it has actually been very helpful, especially with the preparation for the electioneering process and how it played out in Osun State elections. So that was a litmus test of the potency of the Electoral Act, and it has been good so far. So far, and we're hoping that INEC can actually ensure that. But there's a human factor that you cannot take away, and it's why the provision of the Electoral Act that brings together the marrying of both technology and the human part is actually very good. In the electronic transmission of results is a very welcome development from INEC, which is what most of us CSOs are telling INEC, that nothing should happen to the servers on the day of the general elections. It has survived Ekiti State election, it has survived Osun State election, it better survive the national election. Most of us are going to be sitting down and monitoring the electronic, we're working together with Code for that, and monitoring the results as they are being transmitted to ensure that what will be called that day from the INEC chairman is going to be the same with what is coming out from the electronic transmission. So we hope that the human factor of it can complement properly the technological improvement that actually come into the elections as well. But like I have been saying, like we at the lab have been saying, your vote is very, very important. It is not enough that you collect your PVC so that you can use it for banking transactions or as a means of valid identification when you're at the airport. So please use the PVC, vote, not just vote, but please vote wisely, vote your conscience. However it is that whether it's a goat, a shoe, if you're convinced that this is who will give you what you want, because that's the only way you get to have a say in the governance processes in any country. So please, people should go out and vote. That's one of the easiest ways for us to ensure integrity in the general elections come 2023.
When we get the right leadership, a person of integrity, are you positive that it would trickle down to the public sector in terms of integrity and accountability?
I think beyond looking at it as getting the person of integrity, we have to look at governance as a structure that encompasses a whole lot of parts. So it is not just about the president, really. I have always told people I'm going to the polls in 2023 to vote, not for the president, but for the senators and for the members of the House, because that is where policies are passed. These are the people who have sometimes the arm and the knife. Sometimes, because presidents cannot pass policies without 2/3 of the Senate. So we need those people to actually be people who have broader vision, who are seeing things clearly, because if they don't, they're going to frustrate the efforts of the president, whosoever the president becomes. So we need to ensure that we can actually brush up that system as well. So like I've been telling, I'm not voting in Abuja because I want to have a say in that place. So I'm going to Kaduna to vote. I lived in Kaduna for a very long. I still have a house in Kaduna. So I'm going back to Kaduna. I'm going back home to go and vote in Kaduna and ensure that I can have a say in people who will make it to the Senate as well.
Thank you for that. Back to integrity icon. What would be your last word to Nigerians in terms of enshrining integrity in our system and in the public sector?
Who you are when nobody is watching says more about you than who you are when people are watching. That is not to say that who you are when people are watching is still not you as well. You can be better. You can be that person every single day of your life. So always assume that somebody is watching, because somebody is watching. So I'm really hoping that we can all get to the Nigeria of our dreams. I don't think it will be in 2023. It's too short, realistically. But I think that I'm hoping that by 2023 we can start to step in the right direction. Let me put it that way. So because it's a process.
Does it mean that we cannot start now?
The elections have to hold. Because there's going to be a change of government, whether we like it or not, and that is part of the democratic process.
Okay, thank you so much. You have heard my guests, Mokhtar Suleiman and Naomi, who called in and said, you just have to be a person of integrity. It doesn't matter who is watching. But on the other hand, you may never know. Somebody, somewhere is watching closely. And that's how we're wrapping it up on today's episode of the program. Esther.
Okay, please visit our news website, primognews.org. That is primognews.org. For all the details of our reports and interviews, visit our website, www.primog.org, to get all the information about Primog.
And you can watch our videos on Primog TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. And we sincerely appreciate our guest, the Assistant Chief State Counsel of the Ministry of Justice in Gombe State, Mwalim Naomi Abdu, who joined us via the phone, and also to Mokhtar Suleiman, who is the Communications Officer at Accountability Lab Nigeria. Thank you for being a part of today's episode of the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience. And remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Official Primog. I am Esther Bassi.
Remember that birth registration and birth certificates are both free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also remember that you can give us information or hint about corrupt acts through our phone at 0902 265 6167 or info@primog.org. I am Adaobi Obiabumo. Stay safe.